There. Thank you, Elatia. I love this topic. I could talk all day, and I'm in the recruiting and talent space. So I'm curious, when you were speaking about people doing things from their heart and being able to make changes. Obviously, I talk to a lot of mid and senior level folks. So for me, when I'm doing a search, obviously, if they want to do something completely different, I'm not the right person, right? But quite often, there's a question for them about compensation and how they're going to maintain their compensation if they want to do something completely different. So I'm curious if you address that at all in your new book, and what your suggestions are there.
There might be a line or two in the book, and this is yet one more fallacy about the job search, that if I go from industry A to industry B, that I have to move from senior executive to intern. Totally not true. You can make the switch at same or more compensation as you make the switch. And in fact, like, I could come up with a million arguments right now as to why someone from a different industry should be compensated more coming over to a new industry. So
I'm not, I'm sorry, I'm not talking specifically about industry, but if someone is doing something and they want to do something completely different, like if you have a VP of marketing and any industry, and they want to become the head of a nonprofit, maybe. How, well, that isn't a good example, but I'm not talking so much industry as function and the level that they're at.
Yeah, so same argument applies. One can make as much or more making that switch. The idea that there is an assumption baked in that we must go back several rungs or drop ourselves down the ladder, it might be true, but it also isn't necessarily the case. I mean, I have those examples from my own career. Like, when I first moved to Brazil, I started running a foundation that gives career development scholarships and networking opportunities to high potential students. Had never done that before. But then post business school, start running global recruiting for Anheuser-Busch InBev, making 3 times what I was making in a totally seemingly unrelated industry. And so, I think it's a matter, and Scott hit on this when we began talking about this, it's positioning one's story in the listening of the person who's doing the hiring.
I'd also say, Geri, that oftentimes when you're doing a dramatic shift, first studies show that compensation is typically not the first thing that people are looking for, but when you're making a quantum leap from one thing to another, oftentimes you're doing that for things that have nothing to do with compensation, that have more to do with the life you want to live. And oftentimes, you'll forego some compensation. Obviously, if you don't have to, then why would you? But I think oftentimes that is the case. Dennis is back in the house. Dennis, we thought